All right. So we're doing pretty great so far. We've had an introduction to a bunch of cool stuff, and we've seen how to configure our environment. So we had an entire section on that, and that included GitHub and editors, a lot of good stuff. And then we had an introduction to HTML and also CSS, and we were able to build some stuff, which is pretty dang cool. So we've laid some really good ground, and then the next thing that we need to learn is we're going to learn how to structure our documents appropriately. And when we structure our documents appropriately, this is going to help create a good outline for our documents. And then after we've structured them and had this outline created and built our pages in a way that leads to a good outline, we are going to then do some layout and figure out how to lay out different pieces of the document. So the next chunk of information, I'm just giving you the high level overview, and this is what it's about. And so the first part we've looked at was getting your environment set up, HTML and CSS, fundamental stuff. And the next part we're going to look at is how do we start using HTML, CSS? How do we use it appropriately? What are the best practices? This is a field of engineering. It's an engineering field. And engineering takes a certain amount of precision. So you could do shoddy engineering, right? You could do crappy engineering, maybe that's a better word. And you could also do really good engineering. And so good engineering requires precision. And so let's say that we were, instead of software engineers, we were automobile engineers. Well, we would know if we were to engineer an automobile well, if we were working for BMW. This is an analogy. And yeah, the ultimate driving machine, if we had to use a bolt, we wouldn't just use any bolt. Like, we would know about a lot of different bolts, and we would choose the best bolt for this particular situation, right? So it'd have a certain tensile strength or whatever that means, right? But different metals have different strengths. The thread, threads would have a certain amount of force they could take, a lot of information. And then we'd put them on correctly. And so it's the same thing with engineering anything. To engineer something well, to be a craftsperson, right? Meaning you are a master of your craft. You have to know a lot of intricate, intimate details. And so we're going to start learning some of those details. And we'll see how to build web pages with skill, how to build them correctly. And there's a lot of people who are building web pages who don't do this correctly. And when I look at pages out in the wild, it's kind of like, yeah, a lot of this stuff is missing. And so I'm going to show you best practices for building web pages. And the first part is we're going to take our document. So we have a document, and we're going to create sections in that document. So let me just give you a visual of that so you can see what that looks like. And I'm scrolling down through our outline right here. Still scrolling. So here's a document, right? And we've created different sections. So there's a header section, a footer section, and a side section, a section, and an article. And I don't use that section jokingly. I do use it jokingly, but I'm also serious, right? Because these are all sections: header, aside, footer, article. And when you learn about sectioning a document, they talk about here that you could create different sections, and you could create them with these tags. And one of the tags is called section. So you're talking about sections twice. So here's another example of creating sections in our document where different content lives, right? And another one right here, and another one right here. And we'll look at these in more detail. But the first step, this is what I want to convey, is we're going to take our document and we're going to put it into sections. And we're going to use certain tags or certain elements to do that, right? And so then some of those tags, not all of them, some of the tags which we use to create our section will then contribute to the creation of the outline, the document outline. And so what's a document outline, and why should you care? So here I have a file. Let me bring it up. And 23 outline index. And yeah, perfect. So I'm going to launch this. And then I'm going to hit this little thing right up there, right? And that's an outliner tool. And so that's an add-in to Chrome. But first, just take a look at this outline. beautiful. And outlines, are very helpful to people, with accessibility issues. So they help screen readers and things like that. And then they also really help search engines understand what your page is about. And so outlines are helpful. And you want to be able to create a good outline. And so the first thing is we're going to create our document with the different sections. So we create the different sections, and we're going to use semantic HTML to do that. And we'll talk about, what all that is. And I know we've already discussed it a little bit. We're going to keep going over it and rolling around in it so it sticks. So we're going to put our document into different sections. And then we're going to create an outline. And some of the things we use for creating the sections, some of the tags, elements we use for creating the sections will contribute to the outline. Some of them won't. So that's kind of like the first hurdle. You got to figure out which ones contribute to the outline and which ones don't. So we create the sections, we create the outline, and then once we've done that, we can start laying things out and arranging them. So there's 3 kind of steps, and I just kind of want to give you the high level overview of how those steps occur. And in the next videos, we'll go into in more depth how to do each of those different pieces, starting with creating the sections. So that's what we're going to look at first, how to create the sections, which tags or elements, which semantic HTML tags or elements do we use. And then once we've done that, how do we create the outline, and which semantic HTML tags, elements contribute to the outline. And then once we have our outline, we'll do our layout. So that's the game plan, and that's the big picture. But I just want to make sure that that's clear in your mind. Step 1, sections. Step 2, outline. Step 3, layout. Lay it all out. So that's the game plan.